Hello and welcome to this collection of very short audio clips. The idea is to make things easy for you, really synthesized so that you can quickly know what you need to do, what is likely to work, what is not likely to work, what others recommend. So if you're overwhelmed, if you're confused, if you've tried things and they didn't work, you're in the right place. These audio clips could be instead of or as well as my book, which goes into detail, which goes into nuances, and which is packed with endnotes giving you references to more information or research. The aim with these audios is to keep them short and direct and simple so you get a quick answer. My idea in making these audios is A, they're concise, because we parents have times we are just overwhelmed and exhausted. And B, if you can hear me modeling the kinds of conversations that might work better for your child, then it will be easier for you to put into practice. In some of these audios, I just speak to you, and in others, I give you bits of recording of where I'm coaching other parents, because coaching by video call is something I offer to parents. Often the same questions come up and I explain things. So I've put that in some of the clips and I've cut out their voices. And of course, I have checked and double checked with them that they're happy for that bit of their session to be shared with you. So these audios give you some of what you would have with a personal coaching session. In the next audio or two, I caution you against believing everything I say blindly. I also tell you a bit more about my experience so that you know what will apply to you and what might not. And I also explain to you about sharing the files, where it's absolutely fine with me and where I'm asking you not to share the files. So I think that's it for introductions, and I wish you lots of good things, and I'm delighted to be part of whatever is going to help you in this journey. Here's a bit about my story and where I'm coming from, and I'm afraid I'm breaking my rules of making all these audios less than 5 minutes. This is just above 6 minutes. My apologies, I couldn't make it any more concise. I'm Eva Musby. I'm a parent, and along with my husband, we supported my daughter who got anorexia age 10. Up to then, she'd been a very stable, happy child, very joyful, possibly a little bit on the anxious side, nothing major. There was an incident of bullying from her best friend, calling her fat. That seemed to be a trigger. There was also too much health promotion in school, and when we have conscientious, high-achieving children, they take these messages very literally. So like many children, the eating disorder started with cutting down on sweets, on so-called unhealthy foods, stepping up the exercise, and maybe enjoying some change in the body shape, which never should have happened. And then a downward spiral into every food becoming scary, exercising becoming compulsive, looking very depressed, very isolated, terribly interested in cookery books, checking her body shape, losing weight, very rapid downward fall where she seemed to get some OCD behaviors and found it incredibly hard to drink a glass of water. By now, you're probably also aware that there is a genetic element to eating disorders. And indeed, looking at family members, it started to make a bit of sense. Initially, the journey was very long and painful. The main reason was that we just could not get her to eat. And the resources which are out there now, part of them my resources, were not there. So our daughter spent 11 months in hospital. Most of them, she was pretty well. It's just that when she had time at home, we couldn't feed her in a consistent manner. While she was in hospital, one of the avenues I followed was to learn more specific skills for communicating with her, reducing her anxiety, and dealing with my own emotions so that I could be a reliable rock for her, could really be brave in moving her forward and reducing her anxieties around food and exercise. So those were important skills for us to develop in our own way because nobody was teaching them. And that's why I'm very keen on passing those on to parents. So we got to the stage where we just wanted our daughter home, we took the risk, and we were incredibly lucky because our outpatient team was being trained and supervised in FBT, family-based treatment, from James Locke's team in Stanford. So we actually had a team of experts who were really empowering us to take charge of our daughter's eating at home. These are all skills that I pass along to other parents in my resources. So eventually we were skilled, we were getting good professional support. Our daughter got well, really well, to the extent that we didn't check on her quite as much as I would recommend nowadays. And my daughter became affected by anorexia again, age 15, for no obvious reason. She started cheating on lunches in school, thinking it would do no harm, even though intellectually she knew about relapse prevention, about regular meals, about being honest. And she had said very clearly and emotionally that she never wanted to have anorexia ever again. So I imagine there was some anorexic drive there, whatever it is, that makes adolescence such a vulnerable age to eating disorders. As soon as we realized there was a problem, we sprang back into action. We used all the skills we had. I was just about to publish my book by then, so I put that a little bit on hold so that I could see what needed to be adapted. So that's all in the resources that are now available to you, whether it's a young child or someone in their late teens. It's all applicable. Back to my daughter, she never became very unwell, but it was still hard work. She definitely needed our support, and we went on giving it. In the process, we also had more experience of different kinds of therapy, which inform, again, some of the resources that I offer you. And eventually she was almost perfectly well, and we reckoned it was absolutely safe to let her go to university and live independently. She was keen on that, and the university she wanted to attend was in our hometown, so that was extra safe for all concerned. And we set up some safety nets to make sure that while she could really enjoy independence, she would also be safe. We would know what's going on. I think that when your child's had an eating disorder, even if they're really well, this is a really crucial action for parents to take, and it's part of what I help parents with. In my daughter's case, she just flourished, went from strength to strength. My husband and I got good at managing a reasonable amount of uncertainty, which is one of the skills parents need, so that life became sweet for all of us. Right now, as I'm speaking, she is almost 21, and she's been totally well. I don't see any problem. She's happy, she's enjoying life, and we have a lovely relationship. This may surprise you, but I'm going to tell you right from the start not to believe everything I say. It might not be right for you or for your child. Although our children have much in common, they also each have their individual situations. Also, we really have to hope that the field keeps evolving. And although I do my best to update myself and my resources, be cautious. And gosh, I might at times be plain wrong. I really try to give you the best, of course. So much of my time goes to keeping myself updated and continuing to learn from published research, from what the best professionals are saying, and from what parents are saying. Basically, there is a lot of know-how that's important for you to hear, and my mission is to sort through it and make it available to you in a concise and clear way. So use my resources to expand your toolbox and check that any tip I give you makes sense to you, and check things with the professionals treating your child. A few tips for finding what you need on Bitesize, because it's a big collection and I really would expect you to jump around rather than go through the whole lot. So once you're on the Bitesize page, so that's anorexiafamily.com/bitesize, you'll see on the right hand side there's a search box, and in there you can type in any word you think of, and hopefully it'll be a word that I've used in my descriptions. Now there's another way to search as well, and that's to use the drop-down boxes for topics and for keywords. Notice that next to each audio's description there is already a list of keywords. If you click on a keyword there, it will bring up all the other audios that have the same keyword. So that's another way of searching. Make sure you use the reset button in between searches to clear the previous search. Another thing you might be looking for is what have I recently added that you might have not listened to yet. And there is a link to that on the Bitesize page. And on that page, I've ordered the audios in order of the most recent ones. And there's a drop-down box so that you can search by date. Some people have told me that they want to be able to click on an audio and then keep playing down from there in a logical order. Maybe while they're driving, they can't keep clicking from one audio to the next. And yes, you can do that. If you go on the main Bitesize page, you'll find a link to a playlist. For everything I've told you up to now, you need to be online. If you want to listen to Bitesize offline, you will find a link for downloading, again on the main Bitesize page. I give you a zip file to download all the audios at once, and I give you some instructions how to get them onto, for example, a mobile phone. And that's all fine, but remember that I keep adding to this collection, so come back to the website to see what's new. I really welcome feedback, any technical issues or any wishes, or anything that you see is wrong. I would rather hear about it than have other parents get frustrated or hearing something that isn't accurate. It's also good for me to hear from you what's working so that I know to keep going along those lines. You can email me, or you can put stars and comments on the Bitesize product page, the shop where you got Bitesize. There's a place for reviews there, which might be really nice for other parents to see. I'll leave you in peace now to go and listen to the audios that you most need right now. I hope you're going to absolutely love and benefit from this collection of audios, and no doubt you'll be wanting to share it with others. So what are my requests here? Well, I'm asking you to only share the files with your family members, and actually I encourage you to do that because it takes a village to help a child recover. Anyone else, I would prefer that you direct them to my website so that they get their own. In general, I do like people going to my website to get my resources there. One reason is then I'm sure they get the latest version. Another reason is while they're on my site, they will see all the other help on it, much of it free. And another reason is that when people pay for some of my products, I can pay my bills and keep up my work devoted to supporting parents. Parents and clinicians, if you're wanting to recommend Bitesize or my ebook or workshops and so on to parents who cannot comfortably afford them, tell them to contact me. I'll be super glad to give them access for free. We often end up having a lovely email exchange, so it's better for them than you giving them your copy. So, those are my copyright requests, and thank you for hearing me on those. Which type of eating disorder do these audios apply to? So my personal experience is with anorexia nervosa. I feel most confident in talking about it. It's what I know inside out. And I would include atypical anorexia nervosa, which is one of the OSFED categories. OSFED stands for Other Specified Feeding or Eating Disorder. The guidance I'm giving you is relevant to atypical anorexia, just the same as anorexia, because the only difference between the two diagnoses is their so-called significantly low body weight. And really good treatment is the same, whether your child is emaciated or whether they have all the mental symptoms and the behaviors and the fears. And without your intervention, they will lose weight. Now, some of the other eating disorders have a lot in common with anorexia. And some people say, really, we shouldn't even make a distinction. If your child, for instance, has binge eating disorder, they're going to need your help with regular eating and with eating in a normal way, not avoiding particular foods, just the same as if they had anorexia. The treatment for binge eating disorder is very much around regularity, putting an end to the times of the day or the days when the young person restricts, because that will then lead to the binges. There shouldn't be any attempt at weight loss. The current thinking is that binge eating disorder does benefit from psychotherapy, normally cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and more buy-in and participation than with a youngster with anorexia. With bulimia, your son or daughter will need your help to stop the vomiting and to also eat regularly. So both bulimia and binge eating disorder have an element of restriction. People are restricting either the types of food they eat or when they eat or how much they eat. So in that sense, the guidance I'm giving here, which I know very well for anorexia, is still relevant. And all the aspects of anxiety, of communication, of our children fighting us because they need to do their thing to feel more secure. They may fear weight, they may hate their body shape. So all these things are much of a muchness. The big difference is that with anorexia in the early stages, and in fact, sometimes for the whole of the journey, the person just doesn't understand that they're ill. They don't see a problem. They like aspects of what's happening to them. They want to hang on to it because it makes them feel safer and calmer. Whereas someone with bulimia or binge eating disorder, their brain is usually less affected by malnutrition, though to be clear, they could be suffering from quite severe malnutrition. But the main thing is that they are more able to use their rational intelligence, and they may have a useful motivation to get rid of the binging behaviors that they really don't like. So in that sense, there can be more partnership, in which case the help that I give parents on communication can really be helpful in that sense as well. Now, if your child has ARFID, which is avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, I really don't know if my resources are relevant to you, apart from the communication stuff and the stuff about keeping yourselves well as parents, because there's so many different kinds of ARFID. It's a real umbrella term. If your child has got ARFID, bulimia, binge eating disorder, I want to make sure that you don't use only my resources, because I'm not providing the complete picture. I'll say a bit more about where my resources are relevant or not relevant to you if your child has orthorexia or an exercise compulsion. At present, these are not in any diagnostic manual, but they have a lot in common with anorexia, and in that respect, you should find my resources useful. Orthorexia is when your child is so obsessed with so-called healthy eating that they restrict the foods that they actually need and can become very ill that way. Sometimes they lose weight, they often do, and many people who suffer from anorexia started that way. And then the other big one, especially for boys, but not exclusively, is this drive to exercise and build muscles. Sometimes that's called reverse anorexia or bigorexia. It's very similar to anorexia in several ways. And in fact, quite a lot of people who are in the bodybuilding scene used to have anorexia, so they've traded one disorder for another. What are the common factors? Well, anorexia and people with this exercise compulsion have restlessness. They need to keep moving, they need to exercise, and otherwise they really feel terrible. They'll put their life on hold and prioritize their time at the gym. The two conditions are similar in that they often have body image distortion. So people see a body shape which does not match reality. They might see themselves as too weedy or as having too much fat on their body, where actually they're very bulky and they don't have enough fat on their bodies for good health. Another similarity with anorexia is restriction. Somebody who has this exercise compulsion may eat a lot, but only certain types of food, usually protein. So they can become very ill, seriously ill, and it's often missed because they're in no way emaciated, but still they are severely deficient in particular nutrients. So they need help to stop the compulsive exercise, to eat all kinds of food groups, to eat regularly rather than in cycles of bulking and cutting, to restore any amount of body fat that they need, and to regain a more rounded life rather than put everything on hold in order to change their body shape. So in that sense, the methods that parents will use are likely to be very similar to those for anorexia. What's the journey ahead? What's treatment going to look like? Well, initially your priority will be attending to your child's body, the biological aspects, and that's because it's going to make all the difference to their body and their mind. You're going to develop the skills to support your child to eat regular meals and to regain weight and catch up on any lost growth. If your child is exercising compulsively, or if to a level that's not safe, you will support them to not exercise at all or just to have gentle walks with you. And if they are purging, like vomiting, you will make it possible for them to stop that too. So in a first phase, your priorities are refeeding for weight recovery, regular meals, dealing with exercise and purging. Most of our children can only manage that when we start making the decisions, when we take charge of meals, of exercise, of visits to the toilet. When we're with them, supporting them with love and kindness, and we're also persistent. This is the power of a family-based approach because people with an eating disorder can rarely recover through sheer willpower. They can't just get a grip and decide to get well. Some do, but often it's after they've been ill for a very, very long time, so that's not the preferred route. As your child gets regular meals and regains lost weight, what tends to happen for most youngsters is that their mood improves and their thoughts torture them less. So they usually become a lot less scared of food and of gaining weight. Many of the horrible and weird symptoms that you are seeing in your child right now are just down to a starved brain. What's next? Well, gradually you will be blending in aspects of the second phase of treatment, which is about practicing normality again. The end goal is that your child will be free from eating disorder fears, eating disorder behaviors, eating disorder thoughts and anxieties. This freedom is mostly gained through practice with your support, practice at using normal behaviors. Gradually, they will be safe to get their age-appropriate autonomy back, their decision-making, so you will not need to be in charge and making the decisions anymore. In this audio collection, search for Phase 2 for more on this. There's a third aspect to treatment, and that's making sure that your child is back on track in terms of their development, of their life. Sometimes the work you've already done means this psychological stuff is already going pretty smoothly, so not much needs to be done. Maybe a few sessions of family therapy or individual therapy. But sometimes a young person needs quite a bit of psychological support, especially if they have co-occurring conditions like anxiety, depression, OCD, autism, ADHD, etc. Or if there's been trauma at some stage. That's where you might need more psychological individual sessions for your child. Otherwise, you should expect to be very much part of the treatment team. So to recap, for a family-based approach, which is recommended for most young people, first phase, biological, physiological, then second phase towards age-appropriate autonomy, and then you're not needed anymore in that same intensive way. Then third phase, the psychological work, usually at the end, but some children need it earlier. And that will all happen in discussion with your therapist. Just to be clear, we don't start psychological work at the beginning, and we certainly don't rely on it at the beginning because usually it doesn't work because of the malnutrition. Now, if you're thinking your child really needs psychological support because they're so distressed, you're absolutely right. And that's actually what you are going to do for them, because you're going to treat them with love and kindness and acceptance and good communication and good listening. So lots of help from me on that. What are your first steps? What should you do to get ready to support your child? Some parents requested a bit of a checklist, so here goes. In a first phase, your priorities are going to support your child with regular meals, to achieve weight gain, and also to stop any excessive or compulsive exercise and any purging. The very first step is to get your child referred to a specialist eating disorder clinician. For some of you, that will be simple enough, and for others, I am really sorry if you just cannot find someone nearby or even through video calls. In this case, make sure you have at the very least a generalist keeping an eye on the medical side of things. In the UK, that would be a GP. Even if that's all you have, there is a lot you can do yourself, so keep listening. I've done audios to help you talk with your child about all this. If you're in a couple, learn together right away. If you're single, have a think who can be part of your team. It really helps to not do this alone. Plan how you will produce 3 meals and 3 snacks every day, and how you will have an adult support your child through each of those. That may mean one or both of you has to take some absence from work until your child can eat reliably without supervision. This may be a shock to you, and I'm so sorry about that. You did not expect your life to be overturned so suddenly. It's a serious illness. Think, how would you prioritize care if your child had cancer? The good thing is that this illness is treatable, all the more so when tackled swiftly. Check whether your child can safely attend school from a medical point of view. If that's a yes, then think, how can they get to be supported and supervised so that they have 3 meals, 3 snacks a day? It would be very normal for your child to not have their morning snack if nobody is checking. And that means the eating disorder would get stronger because the gap between breakfast and lunch is too big. Some parents support their child with snack and lunch in the school car park. Some get a room in the school. Once eating becomes easier, the supervision may be done by school staff. Most probably, you will also have to arrange to be kept off school sports. A lot of your time will go into planning meals, shopping, cooking, all the while making sure your child is distracted elsewhere. Think about what will help you. Who might help? What help or services can you buy in? Can others help you with your other children? If you're off to the supermarket and you don't yet have a treatment team advising you, I suggest you plan to give your child meals that are normal for your family. If that sounds impossible, then that's okay. I've done other audios about the choice of foods. It's a case of expanding on what your child can manage right now. You will aim to give your child a bit more than they have been having so far, and every few days you increase so that before too long they are eating enough for regular weight gain. Variety is not crucial at this time as long as they're getting enough calories and the major food groups. The brain will continue to malfunction if your child is avoiding fats and carbs. One tip is to take food out of its packaging, like yogurts or smoothies, and vary plates and glasses so that your child doesn't get too rigidly attached to one particular quantity, and ideally they can let go of counting calories. Home cooking, home baking is useful for that reason if you can put in that time. Look at the weeks ahead in your diary. If you have commitments to help others or to be away from home, this is, I'm afraid, a time to put all this on pause. Your child needs you, and this is where your focus is going to be needed for a while. A nice task might be to gather entertainment. Is there a TV series that you could all get into just for meal times? I'll mention a few other things that some parents have found are needed, and this really does not apply to everyone. Hiding objects used for self-harm, hiding calorie labeling on foods, covering mirrors, taking locks off the bathroom door, bringing a mattress over so your child can sleep with you. If you have bathroom scales, this is the time to hide them. May I suggest that you also commit to your own well-being. You are going to be your child's rock, so anything that can top up your well-being is precious too. So that you get off to a good start, I want to stress the importance of parents being on the same page. It doesn't mean that you each need to do the exact same work or even to have the same style of talking and supporting. It does mean that your limits, the things you insist on, that you keep pushing for, that you don't back off on, that those are the same. I see parents succeed with a whole variety of arrangements. If they live together, they may be sharing the meal support work, but it can also work when one takes the lead and the other does all the peripheral support stuff, like the shopping, cooking, caring for the other children. And let's not minimize how precious it is when one parent continues to earn the money. So the issue is not about how you divide up the work, but how you give the same message and don't contradict each other in front of your child. If parents are separated, it can also work very well when they communicate frequently and precisely. This is what our child needs to eat this week. This is how long a meal may take. This is what we say when he or she struggles. This is what we do when he or she cannot finish a meal after X amount of time. All this works and the children get well. What doesn't work is when there's wiggle room between the parents. This is sometimes called triangulating. When the child knows that they can get away with missing a meal or choosing carrots when a nourishing meal should be non-negotiable, or when a parent doesn't sit with their child during a meal, it's really too hard for your child to overcome their terror and guilt around eating. If one of the adults that they look up to gives even the slightest indication that maybe eating isn't that important. Sometimes divorced parents work this out really well, and sometimes there's too much pain. In this case, I suggest you make sure your clinicians are aware of it and that they intervene to get you on the same page. I can only imagine how awful it is for some parents to have to work together again after a separation. And I also want to say, your child needs you to do that. I often hear from parents in the early stages that they just cannot believe that family-based treatment or that kind of approach with parents taking charge of anything that their child can't take charge of. They just can't believe that this approach is appropriate to whatever age their teen is. I have people telling me it can't possibly be appropriate to my 18-year-old, and others saying it can't possibly be appropriate to my 13-year-old because he or she is already so independent and so strong-willed, and they won't listen to what I ask them to do. It will make things worse. Parents may also be concerned that my experience is only about when my daughter was age 10. But here's my response.
The first thing is FBT has been validated for 12 to 18 inclusive, so you're well within the age. Also from my experience, mine was ill age 10, but then at age 15 to 17 and a half, she was kind of bad again, not awful, but having my daughter age 15, 17, 18, in some of the symptoms, with me and my husband having to be in charge, I'm confident in guiding you for that age group. She's now 20, she's very well.
You know, the principles are the same at any age. It's about your child's ability. Can they eat alone? Can they make their own decisions? Usually not when the illness is strong. So we do it for them. We're like their surrogate healthy brain. We might adjust our choice of words, but the principles are the same. Love, compassion, trust me, non-punitive. That's good for any age. There are some developments of family-based treatment for older people, older than 18. And there's a lot of personal experiences of parents who have done that, and some accounts from adults. I'm thinking of a 40-year-old who's just written an account of how she got her parents to basically do family-based treatment for her, when for years her own personal efforts had not succeeded in the long term. Now, just returning to the parents I was talking to who were wondering if their daughter at 17 would be okay with this approach, well, 4 months later, they give me the feedback that she seems perfectly fine. Her mood is great, her attitude to food, no problems. Her weight has been stable for 2 months after gaining 10 kilos in that time interval. And they're keeping an eye on it, but they feel she's safe and she's off to university. So a very quick turnaround in her case. And obviously her age and the method were absolutely fine. So I would really encourage you to realize that your child, whatever their age, needs help. And you help them for whatever they can't do for themselves. Also, be aware that an eating disorder can really reduce the emotional age of a person. So they might want a very gentle voice. They might want to be held like a baby. They might want to have their bed in your bedroom because nights are so terrifying for them. So just forget about the age and look at what's really appropriate for your son or daughter. What can you do when your child is 18 or more and you have therapists who are talking about autonomy, that they're old enough to make all their own decisions, and yet they are just unable to eat enough? All they want is to restrict, lose weight. Here's a conversation I had with the mother of an almost 18-year-old whose therapists were talking a lot in terms of you'll soon have complete autonomy because you'll be 18.
Well, first of all, your expectation should be for quite a while now, could be months. You're going to be in charge of everything. Mm-hmm. And I suggest you make it clear with a therapist that that's what you intend to do, and that they're to validate that and not talk in terms of her being 18. 18 makes no difference. You have to hold on to your parental support. And a good therapist may have to say, look, we need your consent to hospitalize you because you're 18. Mm-hmm. But they say, look, your parents can help you. Listen to your parents. They're good. You know, they reinforce you. You even with a 19, 20, 26-year-old. But that's not the history of treatment. You know, you're battling history there. Parents are harmful.
So assert your care, your authority, your wisdom. It doesn't matter how old your child is. They need your help for all the things that they can't safely do.
And many parents manage that. And if the parents and the therapist don't say, oh, but you're 18, it's your choice, it doesn't occur to the child. Seriously, at 18, they still need their mom and dad.
If you have older sons or daughters in their 20s, you'll know that they still need you. They still come to you when something tricky happens. The bond of parent and child remains all our lives. We are in a society where that can be seen as suspicious and a bad thing. It's all about becoming an individual, an autonomous individual, which of course we want for our children. And at the same time, we are interconnected. We are interdependent. And when our children are so affected mentally that they don't know what help they need, then we step up, and we need therapists to help us do that, or at least to not stand in our way. How do you tell your son or daughter that you're going to start treatment and it's going to be family-based, which means that you are going to be in charge of meals and anything to do with health? You know, that's a difficult conversation to have. And if you haven't got a specialized therapist helping you with that, well, let me give you a few tips. First of all, assuming you don't have a therapist to help you, do you even want to have this conversation? You might just present them with a full, generous meal and keep going from there. You know, just take each challenge as it comes. There are some young people, they don't respond well to warning. Their anxiety just raises when you present them with this kind of future, you know, these months ahead where they're going to have to eat. So with some children, it's better to just present them with the food. When they get their running shoes on, that's the time to say, I'm sorry, my darling, you mustn't run. Come and watch a movie with me. So it's your decision. You try and use your intuition, your knowledge of your child, whether you're going to make a big announcement about how this treatment is going to be, or whether you just do it and respond to the resistance in the moment. In some other clips, I will suggest ways to talk about it if you do decide to announce it. How can you start telling your son or your daughter that you're about to take charge of their meals and start treatment for proper? Here I am explaining principles to the mother of a 19-year-old. So we're talking about getting her consent just for the beginning of it. There's an element of consent, but with a lot of our sons or daughter, we don't even seek consent. We're really just informing them and just starting to get them on board, but we don't need their permission to get started. If we wait for them to actually want to eat the amount that they need to eat, it won't happen. They'll just stay ill.
The principles I'm going to use is that I want her to know I'm on her side. I want her to know she's not stupid. I don't blame her. I want her to know I'm not panicking. I'm confident. I'm knowledgeable. And I want her to feel heard and listened to, because that will reduce her resistance. I'm going to try and put in enough pauses for her to tell me how she feels about it. And I'm going to try and prioritize empathy before I then go on to education. The motto for this is connect before you correct. You lower the resistance, the sense of fear and of threat, by being with the person on their side, listening, saying, I'm interested. What's it like to be in your world, in your shoes? The resistance goes down, and then it's, may I explain to you the mechanism? That's the education.
Another principle that could be useful to you is that you're not trying to make your son or daughter happy. You can't take away the pain. If you keep the conversation going on and on and on with the aim of getting joy and enthusiasm, you could be talking a very long time and just making things worse. So I suggest that you keep the conversation short and move on to some kind of activity, some kind of distraction. Don't get bogged down into long what ifs and buts. Your decision is made. You're going to serve the next meal. It's not up for negotiation. This conversation is really about informing your son or daughter so that they know what's happening and that they understand the place you're coming from, that it's not about punishment, it's because you are now seriously going to help them. And okay, if your son or daughter is an adult, even if they've been told you're now 18 and your mum and dad have got nothing to do with that and you're trying to reverse that, then you're kind of trying to get consent, but at the same time, you're really saying, we're doing this. If anything seems impossible, remember you can always say, we'll do it for one meal and then we'll review, or we'll do it for one day or for 1 week and then we'll review. So those are the principles, and in some other clips I will guide you on what you might say and how you might respond to opposition. You're wanting to tell your son or daughter that you're about to take charge of their food, that you're starting treatment, home-based. How do you start the conversation? Well, in a way, you need to start by already agreeing to have a conversation. You need to make the time for it. It may sound really stupid, but a lot of parents are really scared of even just that bit.
So it might be, I've been wanting to talk to you for a little while about your eating and your mood. Would this be a good time to talk? No. Oh, okay. I'm wondering if that sounds a bit threatening to you. So this is an empathy guess. And guesses are key to empathy, so you don't sound like you know everything. Well, you always make such a fuss. You've already told me about my weight loss. And you're over worried. Just keep out of it. Yeah, okay. Well, I can see how you wouldn't want me to be over worried or to make a stupid fuss. That's understandable. So let's go for a walk for 20 minutes and I'll tell you what's on my mind. And it's not overly worried. Would that be okay? So I'm being a little bit directive there. Yeah. I could have said, that's okay. Let's make a time later. Let's make a time this afternoon. We'll go for a walk together. Thank you, darling.
That's good enough. It's very unlikely you're going to get wholehearted, happy agreement. Oh yes, mom, dad, let's talk about difficult things. But you've got an agreement. You've got a foot in the door to start the conversation. What comes next? Well, I'll cover that in another clip. What might a first conversation about the eating disorder look like? Think about your aims. I would say to make your child feel loved and understood, and to get them to a treatment provider as soon as possible, and in the meanwhile, to start supporting meals. So you might say, darling, I've noticed some changes in how you eat and also in your mood. How are things going for you? And your child might give you a bright smile and say, I'm great. So as to be with your child, not against them, you could start with a yes or okay, such as, okay, you're feeling great. And at the same time, my darling, I get the impression that you're struggling. Your mood can get quite low. Am I guessing right at all? Making guesses is usually a good route to open up connection. If you can also hold your child's hand or cuddle up to them if they don't reject that, then great. Now your child might keep saying everything is fine, so be persistent with kindness. Bring in 1 or 2 factual observations. Make sure you don't sound judgmental, but interested, concerned. For example, sweetie pie, I've noticed that you've been wanting to eat alone and you're cooking a lot for us, but not eating much of it yourself. What's up, my darling? Now your child might cry and tell you all, or they might put the barriers up. I'm all right. Stop interfering. Leave me alone. Call up your wise, caring self and keep up the compassionate persistence. Again, it might help to start with a yes or okay and to repeat some of what they said. For example, okay, sweetheart, you'd like me to leave you alone. And when you say that, I am avoiding saying but. And when you say that, I'm wondering if you are worried that I will judge you, blame you for things. Now that's just a guess, and it's okay if you guessed wrong, as it invites your child to tell you more. Now, let's say your child keeps saying they feel fine, they like eating alone, and they like how they're exercising and being healthy. So, repeat some of this so your child feels heard and perhaps move the conversation on. My darling, when you say everything is okay and that you feel fine and you like how you're eating and exercising, I'm still not so sure, because your eating and exercising patterns are warning signs that usually need attention. You're getting closer to the target now, and even more so if you say, I'm guessing that you are spending a lot of time thinking about food and about what you should or should not eat. Is that so? Or you could say, I'm wondering if you started off wanting to be healthy and well, and it's got a bit out of hand, and now it's miserable. A useful type of question, if you get no response, is, what comes up for you when I say this? Your child might say something like, you think I'm an idiot and a liar, you hate me. Because our children have a lot of self-loathing. This is where cuddles can be super useful. Now, this is not just a talk session. You've done a lot of connecting, so now might be the time to inform your child of the action which, as a caring parent, you want to take. Okay, my sweetie, what I'd like to do is to set up a visit to the doctor. And in the meantime, let's have a period where you eat with us and you eat the meals that we prepare. And of course, your child will protest and you can be persistent. Sure, it's really annoying for you. You want to be left in peace. I get it. And it's our job as parents to care for you. We love you very much, and it's our job to help you wisely. That's the connection bit, and again, back to action. You really are going to make that appointment. You really are going to serve meals. One tip that may help you if your child absolutely resists is to make it time limited with a review, like this. We'll serve you your meals and we'll help you with them for a couple of weeks, and then we'll review. Hopefully that will show that this was all just a blip, and otherwise we'll work on the best ways to really support you. I want to see you back to your old smiling, go-getting self. And then distract, move on. You've done the first step. You're not expecting your child to be delighted about it. No need to keep talking about it. Let's say that you're having a conversation with your son or daughter about starting treatment, and they say, oh, but my blood tests are fine. This was a big concern for some parents I was talking with, and here's what I suggested.
Yes, I get it. That's really confusing. Here we are, we're telling you we're worried about you, and yet you've got your periods and your blood tests and your EKG are normal. So no wonder you're confused. And no wonder you think we're making a mountain out of a molehill. So this is my general guidance. You start by agreeing. You start by putting yourself in her shoes. And like that, she knows she's been heard and she will argue and repeat less because you can now move on. So I get it that that's really weird and maybe really frustrating for you, is it? And then she might say, yeah, you're idiots. Okay. So we go, okay. Well, what we're worried about is the whole picture. And what we've learned is that the bloods can be perfectly normal in people who are already very ill. And that's the beauty of your body. Your beauty is going to keep you surviving as long as it can, at the cost of other things. For example, the most common is bone strength. So we are worried about you physically, even though you've got your periods and you've got normal bloods, because these are not good indicators of health when people are underfed.
I'm basing what I'm telling you on a book called Sick Enough by Jennifer Gaudiani. And she says, it turns out nearly every patient who purely restricts, that is, does not purge, has normal labs. We're talking about electrolytes. They all, according to her, tend to stay in very good balance. That is something that the body fiercely defends in order to keep us alive, even when we are malnourished. In this conversation, the daughter also had her periods. And that, again, is not an indicator of health. And I explain this in another clip. So it's not okay for your child to use blood test results as evidence that they are fine. It's not a good argument scientifically. And in any case, we know that they need our help. So I suggest that you turn the conversation to their overall well-being, their mental well-being, their happiness, and move away from lab results, which might sound like this. You know, most of all, my darling, we're really concerned about your mood, your level of happiness. You're looking so concerned, you're looking stressed. You know, your life is really looking very tough at the moment. And we want you to be happy and well and have a great life. What's up for you? How do you feel about it?
And then you could say, I'm guessing that you spend a lot of time worrying about what you've eaten and what you will eat next. Is that so? I think she'll start getting more and more honest. Not completely.
Of course, your child is very unlikely to admit at this stage how much they need your help, how they are unhappy, what's really going on in their head. I'll cover that in another clip so that you have more on how the conversation can evolve so that you can start this treatment. I want to help you out a bit more on the first conversation or one of the early ones where you're telling your child you're going to take charge of their meals and start treatment at home. And what you may well get is, but I'm going to become fat. Now, I've produced some audios on this business of am I fat? But here's a little guidance for now for this first conversation. I'm talking with some parents who are imagining how they might start the conversation, and then very quickly their daughter would say, are you going to make me gain weight?
Now, this is where you have to be incredibly brave and not walk on eggshells. Yes, darling, very clearly, you will need to gain weight.
And then you can decide to end the conversation and say, let's go off and walk the dog. Or you can leave a bit of silence to listen to your child's reaction. Or you can ask an empathy question like, what's up? You're looking worried. Tell me what's going on.
You bet. I can only be okay at 48. Yeah, that is very scary for you, my darling. I'm so sorry.
So that's validating an emotion. It's not saying that what she says is true, what she fears is real, but we're validating that it's scary for her. If you want, you can offer more empathy by saying, hey, darling, I'd like to put myself in your shoes here. What are you imagining is going to happen? You're looking worried. According to the dad, what she would be likely to answer is, I feel confident at 48. And when I'm at 49, I feel like it all goes to my belly and I've got a food baby and I lose all my confidence. I can totally tune in to the idea that you want to go around life feeling confident and feeling good in your body. These are universal human needs, and let's validate them so she feels really understood. Of course, you want to feel confident. It's really so uncomfortable when you go around your friends, your social life without confidence. And that seems to be linked with also how your body feels or how it looks. And up to now, you've used one method of keeping your confidence and making yourself feel okay. And that's been all about you restricting. So now we're going to help you. We're going to help you with a lot of kindness, and your worries about your body and your confidence are going to pass. We know how to do this. So this is going to pass. It's going to pass as we build your body back up, as we bring the nutrition back. We know that from all the work on eating disorders. So at the moment, it's very hard for you to even imagine. And that's what's going to happen as your weight goes up, as we bring in the regular nutrition with all our support. you're going to feel so much more confident in yourself, in your body. It's all going to feel good again. You're unlikely to convince your son or daughter that this is going to work. So here's something else you can say.
We really want to support you and ask for your trust. This is a leap in the dark for you.
Now, at some stage, you're going to have to move the conversation on because your child may well absolutely resist everything that you say. They can't believe you. They tell you you're a complete idiot and so on. You're going to make me fat. You don't understand anything. I'm not going to do anything you tell me to do. That kind of thing. So you need to move on.
Okay, sweetie. I get it. It's really hard for you to even imagine or believe us. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it one step at a time. Let's forget about discussing weight. We're going to help you with the meals. And when you're freaked out about what you call your food baby, we'll help the anxiety to pass. We'll help you. And I can promise you from all the experience there is, from all the studies, all the kids who've been helped with eating disorders, all the young people your age, older, we know that the anxiety will pass and day by day it's going to get better. Even though your weight goes up, actually you like your body more and you get less anxiety.
And now I think the best you can do is close the conversation, offer some kind of distraction. Let's go and do XYZ, something nice. And then pluck up your courage and give the next meal. At the start of treatment, it's understandable that your child will insist that they want to eat alone, in their room, or at friends' houses. It can be scary for parents to think of their child's resistance. And also we want our children to be happy, and it feels terrible to deny them an afternoon or a sleepover with friends. Sadly, to make progress and free your child of this illness, you have to prioritize regular meals and recovering weight. Things are not going to be normal for a while, and your child will most probably be more anxious and more unhappy as you give them no choice but to eat. And at the same time, you're going to see more and more episodes of your happy, wonderful child being back as the nutrition starts kicking in. Some people talk of a J-shaped curve for your child's mood. It gets worse before it gets better. So what to say to your child? I propose you show compassion and also be firm. For instance, I totally get how you'd want to continue having meals in your room. You've got used to it, and I'm guessing it's a lot more relaxing for you, and you can be on your phone and just doing what you want to do. Is that right? So you're checking. You empathize with whatever your child says. Perhaps they're protesting that they're not a baby, that family meals are boring, and so on. Show your love and then be firm. My darling, sadly, these very understandable things that you want are going to be on hold for a while. We love you and we have to do what's needed so you feel good and free and happy again. And then you can end the conversation or divert. How about you choose a television series that we could watch during meals? A mum was asking me for ideas of what to say when she had to put a stop to her child staying with friends over a mealtime. I suggested, I would so love you to enjoy your friends, and at the same time, meals and snacks have to be with me or Dad for a while. So the sleepover at your friends is just not possible for now. Or actually, could you have it here? And for other outings, we can work out how you could have time with friends while still being with me or Dad for meals. If you search this audio collection for the word school, you'll find more tips on how to organize meal support for school times and how to talk to your child about it. And truly, this is not forever. In a second phase of treatment, you will be working on giving your child back their autonomy. When you're starting treatment, you may wonder what to tell other family members. your parents, your other children, and what to tell the school, and how much to share with your friends. Let's start with your other children. The world is waking up to the need for siblings to get support. Briefly, let me suggest that they probably are more worried than they're letting on, so tell them that you are learning about treatment, that you are doing what needs to be done, that their brother or sister will recover, and that in the meantime they don't need to protect you as you are still there for them. With adults in your world, I suggest you work out who's going to be a help and who's going to be a drain on your precious energy. Those are the people who think they know better, that they have all the solutions, and that if you'd only been a different kind of parent, none of this would have happened. Keep those well away from you, as it's unlikely that you can change them. People who love you and want to help, tell them what you need. Don't expect them to guess. Anyone you tell about this illness, expect them to need at least a few minutes of education, because who hasn't heard a load of myths about eating disorders? Shame is a hallmark of an eating disorder, and usually our children want secrecy. As the wise adult, it's up to you where you draw the line. I know some parents who refused to buy into any stigma. And the more open things are, the sooner life can be a bit more normal because you can get the help you need. For example, your child will be able to eat at friends' houses sooner if the friend's mum or dad oversee the meal and inform you how it went. My daughter wanted nobody to know, partly out of shame, partly so that people wouldn't check what she was eating, and partly so that she wouldn't forever be seen as that anorexic or that ex-anorexic. I did insist that my sisters were my supports and that I could tell them stuff, though I promised not to give them any shaming details. My husband and I also insisted on some school staff knowing so that we could set up the right support. With time, school friends got to know that she had anorexia, and it's amazing how easily they forgot as they chatted about their diets and the calories in food. So, if you're wondering who to tell, you see what feels right, and then be both compassionate and assertive if it's not what your child wants. Let's say you've just been explaining to your son or daughter that you want to take charge of meals, and it's a very strong no, absolutely no buy-in. And that's really to be expected. That would be very normal. But you don't need buy-in. It would be nice. You've had a try, but you don't need it.
If she's still no, I would insist. I would say, sweetie, there's something wrong that you find this so hard to say yes to for 3 or 4 days. So I'm going to help you. For the next few days, I'm going to help you at each meal, even if you can't agree to it right now. I'm just going to ask you to have dinner with me tonight, and we'll take it step by step, and I'll be on your side, and I'll make it easy and safe for you. And then again, I wouldn't expect her blessing and her enthusiasm. If she can calm down and I can help her with the next meal, then we're doing it one step at a time. So at this stage, I would go for distraction. Let's stop talking about it. This is painful for you. Shall we go and do X, Y, Z?
How can you have difficult conversations with your child and have the confidence to do so even when you're feeling really quite nervous and tongue-tied? Now, in a lot of these audios and conversation with parents, I role play it, but that's just my style in a role play. It's not necessarily realistic and it's not necessarily your style. The whole point is to give you a starting point and then you find your own style.
The power of this conversation will be from your stance. It won't be the words you use. They may be completely different from the words I use. And your style will be different. So, for example, people have a more energetic style or a much softer style. You want to be yourself. What matters is that you constantly bring yourself back to your wholeness. Notice your feet on the ground. You've got a good posture. And you remind yourself, I am her mother. I'm the one who has her back. I have done my research. I am competent. I will win this eventually. Even if this is hard right now, this is not the last resort. I can have another conversation later. I will be persistent. So another little motto I have is compassionate persistence. It's okay if this is difficult. I will persist. She will be well. I know what to do. So you are this powerhouse, and that will inform what you say. You are not in a place of fear. When the fear comes up, you feel your feet on the ground. You ground yourself to the world out there. You bring to mind me or all the other parents and yourself. Parents have the power of love. Fill your body with it. Fear is not a great one to show our children. Kind of contagious. You don't really want to present a fearful stance. Obviously, some of it will come and then you catch yourself back again. Grief is okay in moderate amounts. In big amounts, your child feels scared that you look like you're breaking down. But in small amounts, genuine grief is okay.
What this is all about is for you to find the power of your love and really be full of it. The reason you are scared, you are angry, you are vulnerable, you've been walking on eggshells, is that you really care about your child. And that's where your strength lies. That is what will make any conversation possible. That's what will make you persistent in resuming the conversation even when it hasn't gone well. That's what's going to give you the ability to improvise and find your own words. And that's where you get the courage to have a difficult conversation. You know that you are wise, you know you're well informed, you know you mean well for your child, that you have love. Step into that power and keep stepping back into it. When you falter, when you're a bit lost, that's very normal. Remind yourself you're in a place of love and step back into your power. What are the chances of your child getting well, truly beating this illness, being very well? Now, I speak to parents who have heard or read some really awful stuff. They've heard about it being a chronic illness, or they've read that it takes at least 7 years before their child will even start to recover. And most stressfully, they've read some very dire statistics on mortality. So all this is based on hearsay or on very old stuff, which shouldn't be happening anymore, old treatments. Here's how I talked about it to a couple of parents.
Our kids get well, we have the methods now. It's not like, when you read the statistics, awful treatments in the past, awful. They would wait for kids to want to eat, or they would feed them up in hospital and then just let them go. No support from parents, no support back home. So they'd be in and out of hospital. Maybe there's not the education. When a child comes out of hospital, there's still so much for the parents to do at home.
Yes, so there are so many ways in which the modern treatment, the evidence-based treatments we have now, are really different from what that used to be. The main things that come to mind are that now we do not rely on the motivation of the person. We help them to eat anyway. We have the skills to do it. We don't blame them. We don't give them lots of psychology. We go much more for the biological, physiological aspects of the recovery. We help the brain recover. We bring people up to the weight that they need to be, the nutritional level they need to be. We help them normalize their behaviors. That's why much of the treatment just has to be at home with good support at home, and not how it used to be exclusively in hospital and then you're supposed to be fine. There's just so many ways in which we treat differently from how it used to be in the past. Sometimes we get quite an insight into why our children do eat with our help once they've recovered. They say things like, "I wished you would make me eat. I needed you to make me eat. I needed you to take away the choice. Most of us have a story to tell about a hint our child gave us, like, you wouldn't really want me to eat an ice cream, would you? And they say that just as you're walking past an ice cream stall. And at this stage, you have to say, oh, that's so funny because I was planning for you to have one. If you're at the beginning of this journey, it may be strange for you to imagine this, but once you get into it, our children do remind us, hey, Mom, Dad, it is snack time. Did you forget? And sometimes they get very cross and distressed that maybe we did forget it was snack time. I've just had a letter from a 40-year-old who, after years and years, has got her parents' help and is doing extremely well from it. She's become quite an advocate of a family-based approach for adults, not just for youngsters. And she wrote to me that for a long time, her parents were pretty well hands-off. They did not push her to eat. She thinks that they were probably scared of making things worse and also of endangering their relationship. Here's something that she wrote to me and gave me permission to share with you. I'd leave their house on some visits with a brave, I'm fine face on, and crumble in the car as I faced returning to my cold, isolated, eating disorder bubble world. Sadly, for so long, I didn't know, though, how to ask for help. I'd want parents to know, even if their child, including an adult child, screams and spits back at them, don't say nothing. The aggressive side of the eating disorder is there, but inside their child is still there, completely trapped, terrified, alone and desperate for someone to wrap them in their arms, tell them it's okay to rest, and feed them. Why on earth would your child eat just because you want them to eat? I want to give you the courage to go ahead by giving you some possible reasons. When you start treatment, you get told, take your child home, give them 3 meals and 3 snacks a day, and you go, hey, if I could have done that, I wouldn't even be here. Don't you understand my child has an eating disorder? So what I'm helping you with in these audios is how to actually do it. Starting with, well, why would your child eat? Okay, so some of the magic comes from this. Once we as parents get the help that we need, the support that we need, the learning that we need, we become able to support our children to eat. It happens, even if at the beginning some of us need a lot of help. Look, for some of you, the answer may be your child cannot eat now and you need the help of a hospital. But at some stage, our children can be helped by us at home. And we can get them to eat with compassionate persistence, even though they put up resistance. So I'm going to list a few reasons. One is that although they have a huge drive to restrict, and although food raises their anxiety, they are also hungry and they are also weak. So a big reason that they manage to eat with us is that we make it that little bit easier for them, and we are creating a very strong expectation that they will eat. It's lunchtime. Here's your lunch. Yes, you need it. No, you can't have less. So we take away this, oh, I wish I could eat, but I can't allow myself to. We're giving our child ammunition against the part of themselves that's going, I'm a bad person if I eat this. So our children are confused, they're ambivalent. On the one hand, they really long to eat. Their biology is pushing them to eat lots of good, nourishing things and to rest. And then there's the eating disorder bit that goes, don't eat, don't rest. With our kind, confident, calm, loving help, our children just about manage to put the lid on their fear enough to eat this bite and the next bite. We're not working on motivation, on big life goals. On the whole, that breaks down at mealtimes. You're just making it possible for your child to have this next bite. So a great power you have is your clarity and your level of expectation and confidence. Another power you have, and you may be surprised to hear this, your child trusts you. You have years of a relationship where you've built up trust. I know they look like they hate you and they fight you, but fundamentally, children trust their parents. There's an element of, if my parent says so, it must be right. And that's even with a stroppy teen who's all into opposition. Fundamentally, we know our parents mean well, that they have our backs. I want to assure you, from having supported many parents, that this happens even when the parents think there's a breakdown in trust because they've made mistakes. Another reason our children may eat with us is that it's actually easier to go along with what we ask for. The fight just goes out of them, and after a while there's even an element of routine. Okay, here's another reason. Some of our children feel sorry for us. It's in their nature to be kind and to want to please. They don't like causing trouble. Those children may still put up huge resistance, but at some level they also want to please us, so that will help them to eat. It's quite common for our children to say in quite an accusatory tone, "I'm only eating for you, you know." And that's fine. It's okay to be a crutch for our children until they can walk on their own 2 feet. Basically, our children eat because we love them, they love us, even when they don't look like they love us, and they desperately want to eat. At least a part of them does, the biological part that is really hungry. The same with rest and not exercising. So, all in all, this is all about skills and support for the parents and the power of your love. If you're struggling to get your head around the idea of getting your child to eat even when they resist it and they seem to be old enough to make their own choices, to be independent, then there's an analogy which you may find useful, and that's the analogy of the kidnapper. The eating disorder can be likened to a gunman who's got your child hostage, and they're holding a gun to your child's head. And if your child cries out for help, if your child eats, the kidnapper will shoot. Your child cannot ask for help. They cannot eat until you show you are more trustworthy and strong than the kidnapper. And you're saying, "Here's breakfast." And your child can say to their metaphorical internal gunman, "Look, I'm sorry, I would like to do what you're telling me to do, but my parents are giving me no choice." So what you're doing is you're giving your child ammunition against this hijacker. For some of our children, it actually does feel like there are 2 parts to themselves. The normal old part that they used to know well, and then this new part that is so threatening, so judgmental, that they have to work so hard to please. Some like to give that part a name. Some even hear it pretty much as a distinct voice, although it's not schizophrenia. I have heard of young people who genuinely believed that if they ate, great harm would come to their family members, for example. This passes with good nutrition. For other children, they really feel this is them. It's their whole self that does not want to eat, that needs to be thin. So if that's the case, there's no point in trying to convince them that they have an internal hijacking. You can keep that metaphor for yourself to help you keep your kindness and your trustworthiness and your consistency as you support them. I came up with a little expression not long ago, and I noticed it helped people, so I'll say it now. Compassionate persistence. Have you ever thought how ironic it is that the treatment that we do at home is like saying, you can't eat? Just eat. You have a compulsion to exercise? Don't do it. You have a problem? Don't have the problem. It's ridiculous, isn't it? It doesn't sound like it's possible, and for decades we left that work to hospitals. Now we're learning to do this at home and to make it work. And the reason it works is that we are persistent and we are compassionate. Hospitals can be persistent and they can use a lot of threats, the main one being, if you don't eat, we will use tube feeding. At home, we can't threaten our children with tube feeding. We can make other threats, and I think the effectiveness of threats is limited, and the real strength lies in compassionate persistence. At home, our main weapon is kindness, and it's our bond. It's the strength of our love. And indeed, whereas a hospital can get our children out of immediate danger, the treatment doesn't finish there. Our children need our loving and persistent support in order to actually get well. We know that treatment in the family does not work well when there is a lot of what professionals call expressed emotion. So that's when we parents lose our control and we shout and we criticize. In other words, there's no compassion. Treatment will also fail if we are not persistent. So the art for us is compassionate persistence. We persist in helping our children to eat, and we do it with compassion because we realize it's really hard for them. We don't blame them. We really feel for them. And with our kindness, they relax a little bit. They manage to trust us a little more. Other expressions that might speak more to you: tough love, firm kindness, loving firmness. And this one, which I think comes from Buddhism, strong back, soft front. So it's all about having a real strong sense of direction, of what is right, of what is your role, what has to be done, and then it's done with kindness. We can be kind, we can really feel for our children and how hard this is for them, and we can be by their side, holding their hand as we walk through hell towards the sunshine. We are persistent. We hold the level of love and of persistence that our children can't possibly have for themselves at this stage. Being persistent does not mean that we can't be kind, and being kind does not stop us from doing what we have to do. This reminds me of a mum I was supporting, and she would get so tearful and broken-hearted as she thought of her son's suffering and of how she was only going to increase this suffering as she insisted that he eat. And for her, it made all the difference to know that she could do it with kindness, that however hard it was for her son and however much he resisted, she could keep on showing him her love and being on his side. And you know, she became strong and did absolute wonders using compassionate persistence as her motto. I hope this encourages you and gives you faith in compassionate persistence. When you support your child to eat or to rest, even though it raises their anxiety and makes them even more miserable than they were, you are giving them the kind of support that they long for, but that they can't allow themselves to have. In another audio, I give the metaphor of a hijacker. Another image that you might find helpful is that you are walking side by side with your child through hell and out of it. Before they get help, our children are really in hell, and they're making their hell just about manageable for themselves with eating and purging and exercise rules. So obviously it's terrifying for them when we stop them from using these safety mechanisms that they're clinging onto. So when we insist that they eat, that they rest, that they don't vomit, We do it with non-judgment, non-blame, as much kindness and patience as we can muster, because we're depriving them of the few ways they know of just about managing their anxiety. And that's like taking them very kindly by the hand and walking them through hell and out of it, because we are trustworthy guides. So for our children, there's an element of thank goodness someone can see the distress I'm in and is giving me hope and knows what to do. And even though this seems impossible and scary, they're guiding me through it. And I will do that kicking and screaming, but I'm still doing it. Is your child hungry? It may seem hard to believe given the amount of resistance they put up to a meal and how insistent they are that they are absolutely not hungry. However, it's very likely that they are very, very hungry and they wish that they could eat. They wish that they had no choice but to eat. One indicator that they're so hungry is that they spend so long looking at recipes and watching TV cookery programs. There are accounts of people without eating disorders who starved for one reason or another, maybe during a war, and they will tell you they just fantasized and talked about food all the time. Hunger was on their mind constantly, and that's a very good survival mechanism. You're starving, eat. Even with anorexia, which has got a very strong don't eat force to it, there is still that biological I want to eat, I am hungry force. I bet your child wants to be in the kitchen, wants to cook wonderful, amazing meals for you. They get vicarious pleasure from cooking for us and watching us eat. That's because they're very hungry. And when you're eating, they look at you with these big round eyes, like they wish they could be eating as well, but they can't allow it to themselves. Another indicator that our children are really hungry is that some of them binge. So there's this whole restrict, and then the body is saying, eat, have a feast. So for some of our children, they go into binging, then they feel painfully guilty about it, even though it was a healthy biological drive. And then they're back into restricting, starving, and then creating this urge to have a feast again. So that's why for most of the eating disorders, regular meals are most of the cure. You can be pretty sure that your child is very scared of binging because they have fantasies of big meals. And they think that the only way of stopping this huge urge they have is to create stricter and stricter rules about how little they must eat. I used to tell my daughter, you know, the regular meals that you're having now with our help are protective against binge eating disorder because it's the same treatment for binge eating. By the way, while I'm on the subject of binging, let me be clear that if your child has been losing weight or failing to grow, then if they eat a big amount, celebrate. That's not really a binge, that's a healthy drive. The art is to keep serving the next meal at the normal time. What may be true when your child tells you they're not hungry is that they get full very quickly. If they've been eating very little, the whole digestive system is slowed down. The food doesn't move through the digestive system, so you end up with a bloated tummy, constipation, discomfort. And there's also a very intricate interplay of hormones that govern hunger, fullness, satiety. So with all that, it's very possible that when your child has eaten a little bit and says that they're full and that they're uncomfortably full, that is true. although that is still no reason to stop. They must eat what they need to eat to get that system going again. Much further down the line, when your child is really well, it may still take months before they have a well-regulated sense of appetite. For now, when your child says, "I'm not hungry," if they've lost weight or if they've failed to grow as they should at their age, you can be pretty sure that nature is pushing them to eat by giving some very strong hunger signals. And the drama for our children is that then creates such a state of anxiety that they fight it with all their might. One of the most useful things you could do for your child is put yourself in their shoes. And one way of doing that is to imagine that they are feeling anxious, jittery, uncomfortable, and generally in a state of threat. Here's me explaining this to a dad.
You should assume that someone with an eating disorder spends most of their time in a state of anxiety, especially with undernutrition. So her body will be sending out distress signals, which raises anxiety, which says, we're in a state of threat here. This is why weight gain normally helps the mood, because the body starts thinking, okay, maybe the starvation is over.
I should have said not just weight gain, but regular eating, so that the nervous system knows that the food supply is regular, the famine is over.
But while the body thinks it's in a state of famine, because it's not getting enough food regularly, it puts her in a state of, sometimes they don't sleep well, and they're always on the edge of bad temper.
I suspect that anything I say that touches on neuroscience is going to sound really stupid in another few years. So let me just say that it looks like when the body knows that it's starving, it activates a state of threat in the nervous system. Alarms are ringing. The body's in danger. Let's do something about it. And I summarize that as saying the person is in a state of fight, flight, or freeze. That state is very isolated and it doesn't see the bigger picture. It sees everybody as the enemy. It's inflexible, very black and white, very judgmental. It feels attacked all the time. It thinks everybody's out to get me. It's a really miserable state where we have little access to perspective, rational thought. We shut everybody out. It happens to all of us, probably many times a day. It happens to us parents every time we try to give our children food and they resist it and we get scared. So we're in fight, flight, or freeze. And this is a fantastic way of empathizing with your child. The eating disorder makes them feel like this just about all the time. And that's why they're fighting you.
So this is why logical talk doesn't work very much. This is why everything I've modeled for you up to now is compassionate talk. Trust us, we're listening, we're interested, we care for you. Gentle voice, kind voice, maybe holding her hand. You feel less threatened when you have physical touch, unless it triggers her. With anorexia, our kids sometimes don't like being touched, in which case you don't.
To summarize, think of your child as being in a state of anxiety a lot of the time, which affects their thinking, their mood, everything. And the bridge out of that state to help them feel a little bit more themselves, make it a little bit less horrible for them, and they may be more able to eat, is kindness, compassion, listening, gentleness, as well as firmness, firm direction, which is what this treatment is all about. To help you some more with meals, I've got several audios for you where I model things which are more likely to work in my experience. But I'm going to start this one with things that I think work less well. So listen to this and put yourself in your child's shoes and imagine, would this help you to eat or would it make it worse? and see if you use elements of that and which bits you think don't work and why. Please relax. We've all done it. We all learn, and our children eventually get well, even when at the beginning we said all kinds of things.
So, darling, you need this. This is safe. You had it yesterday. Look at me. Look at me now. Okay, thank you. So you can eat it, and your brain needs it, so it's safe. It's safe. Yeah. Look, you need this to restore your health. This is your medicine. Yeah, you can do it. It's your medicine. Come on. I know this is really hard, but your brain needs the nutrition. Come on, you need this to restore your health. If you don't eat it, you won't restore your health. You managed this yesterday. You can eat this food. It's okay. Look, if you don't manage this, I don't see how you can ever get back to school. It's just safe food. It's what you need. It's what your brain needs. You know you're underweight. You know you've not eaten enough. You missed breakfast already, so you really need this. Look, these are healthy fats, you know. These are good omega-3s. That's why it's on your diet plan. We know this is good, balanced nutrition for you. They're just, you know, proteins, fats, carbohydrates. You need all that. Your brain uses a lot of energy. Your brain needs the fats. It's on your meal plan, so have it. The therapist said you have to have it. They put it on your meal plan. So it's what's good for you. Hey, look, I can't make you eat. I can't force you to eat. You have to do this for yourself. Okay, end of demonstration. The parents I were talking with gave me the feedback that it was unlikely that their child would eat with hearing this, that she would still stay very withdrawn. Other parents I've talked to would say they would get more arguments from their child with this kind of talk. Just to tease out some general principles, what have I done which is usually less effective? Well, I've used quite a lot of logic and education about nutrition and health. I've disempowered myself by referring to meal plan and therapist. It can work, the authority of those things, but I'm the one who's sitting there with my child, and I need to be the one who's seen to be the trustworthy decision maker. I've also disempowered myself and possibly made my child feel either completely abandoned or extremely powerful in their eating disorder grandiosity by telling my child that I can't make him or her eat. It may be true, but I'm not going to labor the point because I'm here to support him or her. My tone of voice is pretty harsh because I'm irritated and I'm scared, so I'm going to try and make it kinder. I've said it's just food, it's just this or that. There's nothing which is just in this business. It's really hard for your child. And I've given quite a negative outlook. If you don't manage, this will happen. And in the next audios, I will show more of a positive. When you manage, won't it be great that we manage this and that? I've also used the dreaded but word. So I know this is hard, but your brain needs it. It's not very sympathetic. So next audios will be positive models, which I hope will give you some useful tips to hang on to. How do you help your child to eat? One of the most important things to know about is the art of the direct prompt. So here I am explaining it to a parent. Keep coming back every few minutes to a direct prompt. That means get started on the smoothie. Take a sip. Pick up your glass. Have a mouthful. Now onto the potato. Keep going, darling. Have a bite of the fish. Get started with the fish. now the pasta. So it's short and it's direct. It says exactly what you've got to do. Ideally, you would start with that.
So have another bite. Go ahead, keep going. Go on, darling, pick up your fork. And another one. And another bite. Yes, I do want you to eat it. Make a start on the egg. And then there's also the physical prompt of pushing the plate closer. And you know, some parents even spoon feed their child. That can get you past a stumbling block. It doesn't matter the age of your child. It may be that if you spoon feed them, they can give themselves permission to eat in a way where doing it by themselves, picking up the fork, is just one step too far for them.
So it's a direct prompt. This is because you could get lost in a lot of explanations and you lose the focus that what you actually need is this, the actual mouthful. And it's also because when people are very in a state of anxiety, they're like there's a fog all around them, and like the alarm bells are ringing. Like you imagine you were caught in a fire and there's smoke everywhere and everyone's screaming and you don't know what to do. And then a fire officer comes and says, this way, leave your bag, go this way now. Don't run, walk. You're going to do what you're told. It's very clear in your big anxiety. So I think that's why direct prompts have been found to work. And that is the only bit of research that exists on meal support. Plus compassion, calm, no blaming. You know that already.
I explained it to some other parents in this way.
Your best friends in this whole meal thing is distraction and direct prompt. A direct prompt is like a car salesman. You're like that. I don't know, these cars are rather expensive. And the salesman goes, so when would you like it? So let me bring the paperwork out. You just need to sign it. All right. So it cuts through the confusion. It gives a clear direction. There's authority, there's clarity. It cuts through the chaos. So that is what you're doing, and you're trying to do it every few minutes at least. Now, there are times direct prompts don't work. She is not taking a bite of the fish. You've said, keep going with the fish. No, I can't. So sometimes you have to say other things, but make the other things short and go straight back to the direct prompt.
During a meal, distraction is a fantastic tool, and any games or humor we can use great. And if our children happen to be completely in love with a particular series on television, on Netflix, then great, because they might even look forward to a meal where they can continue with their series. And at the same time, our children can, of course, get mesmerized by the television. We want them to enjoy it genuinely, but we also want them to eat. Here's my conversation.
Sometimes my daughter would get engrossed by the television and she just stopped eating. He would kind of scowl at me if I would say, keep going. So I had the remote control in my hands and I would say, I'm just going to do a quick pause. This is not just to punish you, sweetie. It's just to remind you, have a bite, and then we'll resume the telly, because this is, you do need to eat.
In other words, distraction is fantastic, and you keep going back to a direct prompting for the next mouthful if your child has stopped eating. Exactly the same principle would apply to a card game or a puzzle, anything that you're busy doing at the table for some lovely distraction. Pause the game, you prompt for the next mouthful, you get it, and you can resume. If you can, keep the good humor, the lightness, no blame, no judgment, just, okay, keep eating. Distractions like games or TV are really helpful during a meal. Think of distractions also for before the meal and after the meal. Basically, any time that your child's anxiety is likely to rise. Why after the meal? Well, because it's a time when our children can feel dreadful. They can't bear the sensation in a not empty belly, and they are plagued with regret about having eaten. In their mind, they are weak and they were a pig and they should never have eaten so much. They can feel really anxious and panicky about all this. So it makes perfect sense that the next time you serve a meal, they will resist in order not to feel so awful after it. So a meal may work better if your child knows that you're going to support them and distract them afterwards. Perhaps you can get into a routine. Many parents take their child for a drive, for instance. Perhaps a gentle walk together. Perhaps you can plan a game or some television or a craft activity. All this is especially important if your child has an urge to vomit, to purge after a meal. The usual recommendation is that they spend at least an hour with your supervision to resist the impulse. Before a meal can also be an anxious time. You're cooking, your child is in another room, and they're really worried. My daughter could hear the sound of me lifting the lid off the butter dish. Yes, lifting it off. And it was agony for her. Just to remind you, most of our children only get on the path to recovery when we keep them out of the kitchen. That means we can cook what they need, and also that they don't get all heated up and anxious trying to micromanage the meal prep. Now, the downside is that this leaves your child in another room, alone with their anxious thoughts. So again, plan with them what could keep them busy. Try to serve the meals exactly on time, because even 5 minutes late can be stressful for your child. A tip which I hesitate to give because it's important that you get time to rest is that you prepare food and fill the freezer while your child is in school or when they've gone to sleep. And I'll add anything that can reduce your time shopping and cooking, whether it's services that you pay for, meal packages, online shopping, or taking up friends on their offer to help. Go for it if you can. In another audio clip, I told you about the benefits of repeated, regular, direct prompts. Have the pasta, have another bite, keep going. Now, the parents I was explaining this to said, actually, if they haven't got distraction on, like the TV isn't on, and they do keep prompting, they have also noticed that their daughter says, "Will you please be quiet? Will you please stop telling me stuff?" And so they sense that there's a time for talking and there's a time for silence. So this is what I said about it.
There is a role for silence. Sometimes it's in our children's nature, and sometimes it's just the rhythm of the meal, that at some stage they want silence to psych themselves, because they actually do want to eat. And they just need to gather their concentration, their courage. There's some internal self-talk, which is actually positive. Usually their self-talk is negative. It's all about, oh, I mustn't eat this. But at one stage, they're kind of psyching themselves up. So if you can guess that's happening, you stay quiet. You give it a chance for a few minutes. If it's still not working, then go back to, come on, darling, have a bite.
When you're helping your child to eat, experiment with words like, trust me, this is safe. I'm on your side. I'm by your side. I'm here for you. These are all words that talk of trust, safety, and connection. All these things that the nervous system needs to sense in order to move away from its state of threat, to move away from fight, flight, or freeze. A lot of what you're doing is communicating with your child's nervous system, not addressing their logical brain, which is pretty much offline at present, at least when it comes to food, exercise, and body shape. In this audio collection, if you use the keywords anxiety or calming, you will hear many, many tips to help bring your child out of fight, flight, or freeze, and some of those are suitable to use during a meal. For now, trust me, this is safe. I'm on your side. I'm here for you. During a meal, it's normal that your child should raise all kinds of objections. So how should you respond? First, let's aim to respond just briefly, then return to a direct prompt. Just enough empathy to show your child you're on their side, then back to the meal. I'm going to give you some examples now, and if you want more on compassionate communication, there are plenty of clips in this collection. So a bit of a template first. You could use the principle connect before you direct, so that you can be both compassionate and persistent. So how might you connect? Well, whatever your child says, consider starting with a yes or an okay or a nod. This will protect you from muscling in with an antagonistic no. Then you might repeat what they said or a portion of it to show you heard them and you're not judging them. Make an empathy guess about why this situation is awful for them. Make sure you put a question mark in all your empathy, because people don't like being told how they feel. And you might normalize. Assure your child it's normal that they should feel this way. That can bring great relief. Show kindness. And you might assure your child of your love and support and that they can do this. And then, very important because this is a meal, onto a direct prompt. Some examples for you. Your child says, I'm not hungry. You might say, oh, you're not hungry. I'm so sorry. It's hard to eat when you're not hungry. And I'm guessing it's really unpleasant for you. Yeah. I'm here to help you manage, even though you're not hungry. Have a piece of the pie. Your child says, there's too much. You might say, okay, you feel it's too much. I can well imagine how that would freak you out, sweetie. I am so sorry. I'm with you, you know. Trust me, this is what you need. Next mouthful, darling. Your child says, I don't have snacks. You might say, okay, for you right now, it's no to the snack. I'm wondering if it's really hard to see this snack because you've not had a snack for several weeks now, and it's quite a big new step, right? And your child might put up another argument, like they just had a huge lunch, and you might say, sure, that's extra stressful for you to have the snack when you're thinking of all the hard work you put into managing lunch. Am I guessing right? And then you might move on to, sure, it's a hard step for you. I am with you. I'm on your side. Start with a spoonful of the yogurt. And so on. If your child's protests are about being fat, I've done audios on that. Search the keyword for fat. If the issue is with a food that your child has been avoiding for a while, search the keywords for fear foods. If they're getting very anxious or panicky, the keyword is anxiety. How about if your child is shouting or throwing food or trying to kick you? I've done audios with the keyword aggression, but let me show you an example right away. Do not throw the food. That's not okay. That's you setting a firm limit. And then you can de-escalate, like, come on, darling. It's horrible to end up with all that mess. I'm wondering if you're really stressed out, right? You feel like you just can't bear it? Okay, I'm with you. I'll tell you what, I'll fetch some more food and I'll sit with you and help you and we'll clean up later. First, tell you what, let's have a stretch and some breathing together. If you really love having scripts and if you have my book, go to chapter 8 where I offer things to say to all kinds of mealtime objections. During a meal, if things are getting very stuck, very rigid, then you can guide your child to move their body to get unstuck, more fluid. Your expertise in supporting your child to eat isn't only about the words you use, it's also in getting a sense of what their body needs to release tension, what might signal to their nervous system that all is now well and safe. So when a meal has become hard, You could remember to propose a stretch, some breathing, and here's what it might sound like. Okay, darling, let's have a stretch. Do this with me. Yes, trust me, this will help. Let's breathe in. Yes, breathe in. And we raise our arms at the same time. And now we breathe out, nice and slow and relaxed, and we bring our arms down. And another breath. Yes. And while we're up there, let's have a little wiggle. Basically, you're just making up some kind of movement and breathing to get your child unstuck, to change the mood. Lots more of this kind of thing on a series of clips I've done about calming skills. Another idea for when a meal is just not working, or when tempers are getting so frayed that you don't trust that you can calm things down, another idea is to propose a break. So you could say, let's change the mood. You know what? Let's give ourselves a break. We'll come back to this meal in 10 minutes. During this break, you could decide to each go to your own space, or you could do something different with your child, like, would you help me pick some flowers? Anything to change the mood, change the scene. You could even try continuing the meal somewhere different. I remember my daughter had a phase of enjoying her snack while we strolled together through a shopping centre. Of course, it is risky to propose a break because for some of our children, it's really hard to get started again. So you be the judge. If you're stuck anyway, then a change of scene or a break in order to change the mood might just work. Sometimes I think during a meal, it's useful to name the elephant in the room. You know, the thing that you're pretty sure your child is thinking about, that's a real block, but nobody dares talking about it. For instance, parents often say, I just know when my child comes to the table, they've already decided they won't eat. I can see it on their face. This happened with my own daughter. It was so discouraging to feel beaten before we'd even started. So, after doing your best to support the meal as usual, you could take a risk and say, Sweetheart, I'm wondering if when you came to the table, you'd already promised yourself that you wouldn't eat? See what your child replies and take it from there. The beauty of bringing out into the open whatever big resistance your child has is that you can then say, okay, I don't blame you for that. It's understandable that you should have decided to give yourself a bit of peace of mind by making that decision ahead of time. And, sweetheart, you do need the food. So I'd like you to have it even though you decided not to. Yeah. Pick up your fork, sweetheart, and get started on a bite of that toast. In this clip, I'm coaching a mother whose daughter tends to not finish her meals, so she ends up not eating enough. I'm modeling direct prompts, compassionate persistence, have a bite with lots of empathy, kindness, safety, validating her feelings. At this stage, the girl is saying, I'm not having it. And I'm saying, yes, I totally get it. You don't want the pasta. I get that, darling. And I'm saying that so that she feels heard, and it doesn't mean I agree with her. But if she feels heard, she might repeat herself a little less. And the girl says, I'm not going to have it. I've told you.
Sweetie, even though it's really difficult, I would really like you to have it. Have a bite now. Have some of that pasta now. Get your fork in there.
Now that is a direct prompt, and I have another audio where I talk about those. And the girl says again, no. Although the mother who was role-playing with me was saying, oh, I actually feel like I want to eat now, although my daughter probably wouldn't. I do, because of your kindness.
Sure. The first role modeling I did, which was more harsh, your feedback was how hot it would resist. So there's some hope that if you're feeling a bit more drawn to it, that she will go in that direction. So, sweetie, darling, I see it's really hard for you. I really get that. I'm asking to have a bite now anyway, even though it's hard. Get going now.
So the mother is now role-playing, how many bites will I have to have?
Just now? One bite. One bite right now, darling. Do it now.
So now the girl is saying, just one? I'm only having one.
Hard things, we deal with the present moment. That's a hard thing for you to have one bite. So do that now. Do it now.
Again, the girl is saying, just one bite. And I'm just not addressing that because I don't want to make promises. My message is anything that is difficult, we deal with the present only. Now, the mother reckons that her daughter would have a bite and then stop.
Thank you, darling. And now, another bite.
And the girl says, you said just one. I don't want another one.
Yeah, it's hard. I know, it is very difficult. It's a big thing for you. I can see your face looks quite panicked. Something about your eyes and the way you're hunched up. I'm guessing you're quite anxious at the moment. Is that right? So that's a bit of empathy where I'm bringing to attention the body, naming an emotion to it, and I'm making it as a question mark. Is that right? Because my guess might be wrong, and she can then tell me what she's actually feeling. When people can express their emotions and feel understood, it gets them out of this very tense, fight-flight type, anxious, threatened state. So that's why I'm going, your body's hunched up, your mouth's really tight, so I'm guessing you're anxious. Is that so? I'm sorry, it's horrible when you feel anxious. It's a very unpleasant emotion. It is going to pass. Emotions pass. Emotions are not forever, sweetie. In this case, I'm asking you to keep going with the pasta, even though you have this anxiety. So get your fork in there now.
That is me giving another direct prompt, so I don't get lost in long empathy talk, back to have the food, have a bite.
So I'm also trying to slow down my speech and soften my voice and have a kind and confident smile.
Yeah.
Very loving, very, very nurturing. And all this is designed to say to the nervous system, you're not in threat now. You're being taken care of, you're safe. And I could also say, this is safe, sweetie. You're getting all these danger signals. You're looking at the pasta and you're thinking, what's that? And trust me, I know it's safe. It really is.
This clip is one of several where I demonstrate things that you could say to help your child to eat. In this one, I'm demonstrating direct prompts like a broken record, keep eating, have a bite. I'm going to use things like trust me, I'm by your side, make good use of silence, and I'll also address when the girl becomes sarcastic. Keep going, darling. Have a bite now. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. Some of the potato. It's okay, sweetie. I'm with you. Have the potato. So have the potato, have a bite is a direct prompt, which usually it's useful to keep coming back to. Even if you need other tools, every minute or so give a direct prompt again, or even more often. The parents give me the feedback that they think she would be looking away, rolling her eyes, and mumbling to herself, nah, 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 nah. She wouldn't actually be arguing with me, but I would see the body language. So this is what I propose.
Yeah. I can see you're kind of going, nah, nah, nah. All right. I really want you to have it.
Come on, my sweetie pie. Have a bite now.
Come on, I'm by your side. Yeah, I know. You're kind of going la, 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 la. I know. You really don't want it. Okay.
Honey, look at me.
Look at me. Look at me, darling. I'm your dad. I love you. I want you to manage this meal. Seriously. Have a bite now. Keep going. Come on.
The parents reckon the daughter would now be seriously blowing her nose, possibly as some kind of distraction. I don't know. So I'm going to respond to that.
Okay, you've blowed your nose, and now I want you to have a bite. Come on, trust me, darling. Trust me. Have a bite.
I hope that this was a little bit helpful for you so far, and I'm continuing this in another clip. I'm continuing with a demonstration of things you could do or say in order to help your child to eat. In this clip, I'm demonstrating more on physical touch, even spoon feeding. I've already tried for quite a while with direct prompts and I love you. The parents I'm talking to tell me that their child would keep looking away and not responding. Here goes. Darling, may I hold your hand? Actually, may I even give you a lovely hug? Yeah, thank you. That's better. If your child will appreciate a hug from you or stroking the hair, because you can't feel their fat or their bones when you're stroking their hair, so they might allow that, then you are achieving more in terms of getting them out of fight, flight, or freeze than if you were using the best words in the world. Human beings respond to physical touch in a way that their nervous system knows that things are safe. And apparently this releases oxytocin, which leads to a calm, loving, connected state. Now, some children will brush us off when we reach out to touch them. That's why I'm in the habit of asking. And here's what I would say if it's a no. No, that's okay. I'm glad I asked. Okay, the parents I'm talking to say that their child does accept touch, and I recommended they do the whole meal, sitting right close to her and hugging her. I can even think of some young people who can sit on their parents' lap like a baby. It's nothing to do with their age, it's to do with the level of terror that they're in. Here's something else that these parents could do.
Sweetie, I wonder if it will help you, even though you're 15, if I spoon feed you this next bite. May I do that? Shall we give it a try? Okay, so here goes. And I know you're not a baby, okay? Here you go.
My tone of voice is a little bit strong. It could be gentler. I'm busy modeling this for a dad, and sometimes parents are a little bit scared that their talk might sound patronizing, so it's quite nice to have a range of voices. Now let's return to this meal. The parents think that their daughter might indeed accept a little bit of spoon feeding. So they can take heart that they're breaking the deadlock. They might manage to get a whole meal to succeed that way. But we did continue the role play, and I'll do that in the next clip. I'm continuing with a series of demonstrations of what you could say at a meal. In this clip, I am going into empathy. So I am still going to use direct prompts, but because I'm not getting anywhere, the parents say their child is still not likely to be eating. I'm going to make a guess as to what she is thinking and show her my compassion for that. I also want the parents to take heart from the fact that their child is still at the table. She's not chained to it. She could have got up and left. So there is hope that there's a little bit of her that we can still reach, that will eat. So let's continue.
I'm wondering if there's a lot going on in your mind right now. And you're probably thinking you really must be really tough and not have this food.
Am I guessing correctly? There's a lot in your mind? She rolls her eyes and mumbles something like, "Hey, what do you think?"
So, sweetie, I want you to eat this, even though there's all this stuff going on in your mind. Have a bite now. Yeah. You've got some really difficult thoughts going on. I can well imagine. I imagine you've got something that's saying you really, really mustn't eat it. You really mustn't. I really understand that.
This might sound like quite a risky thing to say. My reasoning is that this is empathy. I'm guessing at what's going on for her because she's not telling me, bringing it out in the open, normalizing it, showing that I'm not cross about it. I don't blame her. I don't shame her for it. And she can eat in spite of those thoughts.
Yeah, that's really normal. That's what happens with other people with anorexia. Huh? I know you can manage this. I know. Come on, trust me, my darling. Have a bite now.
I'm on your side, you know. We're on the same team, hey? I'm here to help you. I'm doing my very best to make it easier for you, sweetie. So guess that it's incredibly difficult. Get started on the soup, sweetie. Okay. All right. My darling, pick up the spoon. I hope that helped. And in the next clip, I will cover some more empathy after my child feels that everything is hopeless, that there is no joy, there's nothing to look forward to. I'm continuing with some demonstrations of things you could say at the dinner table. This clip contains a little bit of everything, so it's a good recap. But the focus is on creating some kind of positive vision. What are we doing next once this is going to work, which is fun? Changing the mood. It's kind of like an incentive or reminding your child that they have a life, that there is hope out there. It certainly should not be a bribe because that can turn against you. In this scenario, the parents have done all the right things. They've got a game going, so they've got good distraction. They're doing the direct prompts. They are really showing their compassion. And all the same, nothing much is happening. So I'm going to suggest creating a positive something to do after the meal. And as you'll see, that's going to bring out some more emotions, and I'll demonstrate some compassion around that. So here goes. I'm so looking forward to visiting the neighbor's new puppies. Won't that be amazing? Baby Labradors are so cute. You keep eating and let's go visit them. The parents give me the feedback that their daughter will probably express how really awful her life is and how nothing gives her any pleasure. And basically everything is utter rubbish. Oh, it's so crap. I get it.
Yeah, I get that. That is so sad. That is so sad. You're my little darling, and life is so hard for you at the moment. And here I might give you another hug. Yeah, I really feel for you. You're having a really, really, really hard time. Yeah. Now I want you to have a bite, even though you're feeling like this. Okay?
Thank you for taking that bite. Keep going. The next bite.
Okay. Yeah, it's okay, darling. It's all good. It's all safe. Come on, I'm on your side. I'm here to help you. I'm your loving dad.
And now maybe she protests, I've already had some.
Yeah, keep going. That's exactly what you need to do.
In other words, I'm not going to get drawn into an argument about quantities and what's enough and what she ate when. Some young people have given the feedback that it really is useful for them to think about their greater goals in life, to be reminded that they want to manage this meal because they have plans to go to university or to be able to have babies or to achieve a particular party. So if that works with your child, obviously use it. I've heard of inpatient units where the table mats are specially created to show images of things that the person aspires to. My experience has been that big goals don't work. They're just too remote, and the person can just close down and go, it's hopeless. I am hopeless. But try it. And if the big goals are too big, you can still use the immediate things. As soon as you've finished eating, let's go out and in the case of my daughter, it might be let's go out shopping and look for some nice clothes. We did a lot of shopping. So I hope you enjoyed this series of audios where I demonstrate possible things that you could be saying. I hope that some of them are useful to you. Now, during a meal, here's an interesting little subtlety. Do you say, you need to eat this food? Or do you say, I would like you to eat this food. I want you to eat this food. I need you to eat this food.
Up to now in our role modeling, you've said, you need to have the pasta. And you could experiment with, I want you to have the pasta. I need you to have the pasta. So it would be I. You could say, well, why should she want to please you if it's all about you, the mum? There's just a slight change in dynamic and you could experiment with it. I really want you to have it. Seems to me to work better than you need to have it. Try it.
Here's how I understand that this maybe works. If I say, you need this, your body needs this, I'm speaking to someone with an eating disorder. They actually believe they don't need it. That's the message they're hanging on to. It actually feels awful for them to have it. It doesn't feel right at all. So I could get some serious pushback when I say, you need it. Yeah, and on top of that, it might sound a little bit preachy, a little bit bossy, patronizing, so maybe it invites more pushback. On the other hand, it is also true, so I'm not saying not to say that. I just wonder if you can get more eating if, for a while, you're saying, I really want you to eat it. It's the truth, and it does capitalize on your bond, on your love, on why you're doing this, why you're taking control, why you're in charge. And our children do tell us, I'm only doing this for you. I'm only doing any of this for you. And that's okay. They can't do it for themselves for a little while. So it's okay if they do it for us. That's a useful tool. So I think either could work, but it's interesting if you want to experiment with the difference between you and I. Counting down each mouthful is another way you could help your child to eat. I think it's the equivalent of putting one step in front of the other when you're on a tiring walk. You shut out intrusive thoughts and make your body go through the motions by focusing on just that next step. As well as counting down, you could ask your child to keep their knife and fork or their spoon in their hand, because it can be an extra effort of will just to pick it up. So here's what it might sound like. Darling, I want you to keep the fork in your hand. And remind them if you see them put it down. Then you instruct. Now, I want you to prepare your fork. Put some potato on it. Okay, let's count down together and then you'll take a mouthful. So, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take your bite. And keep the fork in your hand. So now your child is chewing, and as they're swallowing, you could say, okay, now load your fork, another piece of potato, and we count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and a mouthful. And if your child protests, you can use the other tips from these audios briefly, and then, okay, let's go again with the counting. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and take a bite. This may help keep up a steady momentum, which could help if meals are taking too long. The counting is about blocking out negative thoughts as well as giving a bit of a rhythm. An alternative could be to recite a bit of the alphabet, backwards even. At first you could count aloud with your child, but perhaps after a while your child will get into doing it silently in their head. I didn't use this technique with my daughter. Indeed, I only learned it recently when a professional described it on one of my workshops. At the time I thought, sounds great for some. Probably wouldn't have worked with my daughter though. And a month later, my daughter happened to mention how she used to make herself eat by concentrating on one mouthful, then the next, really mechanically trying not to think about it. And I realized, with a little pinching of my heart, quite how much courage she put into these meals, and sometimes I didn't have a clue. When your child is protesting about a meal, a tip I learned from a professional is to say something like, listen to me, not to your head. So if your child is saying there's too much food or that it's the wrong kind of food, you could say, sounds like your head is giving you a hard time. It's me you need to listen to. I want you to listen to me, not what your mind is telling you. Keep going with the yogurt, please. You could say, the decision is with me. You don't need to make that decision, sweetie. I'm telling you this is what you need. I'm telling you you can do this. Have the next bite. Some more words you could experiment with. I don't blame you for thinking that. It's very normal. And I am going to override what you're thinking. And I'm telling you this is what you need and this is what you have to do. You've got to do it, sweetheart. The decision is with me. And my decision is you're going to eat what's on your plate. This is not about being bossy, because that would invite even more confrontation. Your listen to me should come from a supportive place, like your head is giving you a hard time and it's me you need to listen to. What you're doing here is taking the guilt of eating away from your child. Chances are that they have a lot of chatter in their head, telling them that they are weak, pathetic, a slob, a fat blob, for even thinking of eating this food. And you're effectively saying, it's not your decision. For most young people, treatment only starts working when parents make the meal decisions and assume a position of wise authority. And when your child puts up all kinds of objections, you're really driving home how they do not have any guilt to carry. It's your decision. And you're bringing some clarity while they wage an internal battle. Listen to me, not to your head. A bit of nuance now, and I think this is important. I'm not suggesting that you say, there's not too much food, That's your nasty, vicious, eating disorder voice talking. We don't listen to that damn ED. Perhaps you've come across this form of externalizing. Use the search box to find my audios on that. No, you want to be supportive, not aggressive. And if you insist that they have an eating disorder voice when they don't see it that way, then you're alienating them. All you're saying is, it sounds like your head is telling you XYZ. No big deal. We all have thoughts going round our head telling us this or that. I'm your caring parent and I'm telling you it's my decision. Can you praise your child when they're doing well with a meal? Can you say, well done? And how about some cheerleading? You're doing great, keep going. In an ideal world, of course you would do all that. Sadly, when our children hear us say, wow, you're doing so well, all they hear is, I've eaten too much, I'm a fat slob, I've been weak, I should have put up more of a fight. Some youngsters may reveal that when we praise them, it activates their inner critic, a nasty voice who becomes super angry and blaming. With my daughter, we learned not to praise. At the end of a meal, we avoided saying, well done. We avoided saying anything, or at the most, a thank you. Then one day she told us with a lot of grief that we never seemed to appreciate the humongous efforts that she was making. So we agreed that we could praise her at times when her head was giving her some peace. At this phase of her journey, bedtime was a good time. So, out with a meal, you might be able to say, I saw you being brave earlier. I could see the omelette was not easy for you. And I wonder if you were calling up all your courage, and have a warm, connecting conversation around that. If that's too much, yet you feel that your child needs some appreciation, you might try, I'm really proud of you. I saw from the pain on your face how difficult that was for you. During a meal, if you feel the need to do a bit of cheerleading, consider something like, I know you can do this. Yes, you can. Or, I'm asking you to be brave. Call up all your amazing resources of courage and determination. Keep going. Next bite. You could also put in a little bit of hope or reassurance like, I'm so sorry that you feel bloated. That's going to go with time. It's going to get easier. You're doing what's needed. You can do this. Have some more of the omelette. The other day, a parent was telling me how her child is extra tortured now that she's gaining weight. She's been complying with meals. I'm thinking there might be a place for some cautious hope-giving, as well as a reminder that it's the adults who are responsible. For instance, I'm so sorry that your mind is sending you all those guilty thoughts, and you know it's pretty normal and it will pass as you keep going. You're doing all the right things to earn yourself some peace of mind. All the things that you would not choose to do, but we've been telling you to. Remember, we're making the decisions. We're not giving you a choice. Can you tell the chatterbox in your head that you really have no alternative, that none of this is your fault? So I hope that these suggestions might help you a little bit around this business of praise, cheerleading, and giving hope. Should a meal have a time limit? If your child is stuck, if they can't eat, should you go on and on for hours, however long it takes? Or should you say after a certain amount of time, okay, enough, let's move on? You actually have a lot of ways of handling this question. And for that reason, I made a video on YouTube, which is called Stuck Not Eating. And it gives you a kind of flow chart of so many ways you can handle this situation of your child isn't eating after a while, or they've only eaten part of their meal. Here's my conversation with a couple of parents on just one aspect, one decision, which is, do you tell your child, darling, we're giving this meal 30 minutes and then it will be over, I'll take your plate away? It may sound a little bit self-defeating, but it's a valid question because that tends to be what happens in hospitals.
Hospitals give time frames because, they've got all these kids and they can't spend any longer. And it can work. On the whole, the kids go, oh gosh, I've got half an hour, I'd better get on with it, because there's a part of them that wants to eat.
There's another reason why hospitals get into a particular time limit, and that's because quite often they then present an energy drink, and if that is not accepted, the person knows that they're going to get tube fed. Obviously, at home, you might manage to give your child an energy drink if food isn't eaten within a particular time limit. But of course, you're not going to have the ultimate feeding method, which is by tube.
When they're home, the dynamics can be a bit different. And with mine, when I tried it, she sat solidly for 30 minutes with a kind of ha, ha, ha. Now, what are you going to do? Because she was just waiting for the 30 minutes to expire. First 2 times we did it, she ate like a starving thing in the last 2 minutes. She obviously had wanted it. But I think after that, she strengthened her resolve and she thought, I've got to sit it out. Yeah. So what I would do for me is I would think, I'm going to sit it out as long as it seems reasonable to me. And that's a slightly flexible thing. I'm not an advocate of keeping your kids at the table all night. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but some parents do it and they say they cracked it that way. Others say that was a disaster. We all started screaming at each other. We lost trust. We've got rebuilding to do. So you use your judgment and you go, how much can I bear it without losing my temper? And how long does it look like there's still a little bit of hope here?
On the question of how long to make a meal last when your son or daughter is really struggling, here is one more tip, and that is, can you, the parent, manage to get one more bite in? So the one more bite is for yourselves. It's not something you would say necessarily to your child, but to yourself. Can I manage one more bite?
She's looked at her plate. That's hope. That means she's thinking about it. She's thinking, can I? Might I? Is it possible? She's not run away from the table. She could, so that means there's still hope. These things would give me the courage to go, I'm going to stick it out a bit more. And can you manage one more bite? So when you're about to give up, that's a kind of interesting little test for yourselves, not to give up too early. Can I manage one more bite? When we had therapists coach us at our home, it made a huge difference. One of the first thing that the therapist said to us is, you gave up a little bit too early. I think she was ready to eat a bit more. So try one more bite. That's your motto.
I've produced other audios for you on how long to make a meal go on. Can I possibly press for one more bite? Should I put a time limit? Here I want to guide you with actually ending the meal without blame so that you're preparing for the longer term success. Here's a bit of conversation I had with a mother who was saying, once she's eaten her chicken, she just stops, she doesn't eat the pasta, and so I just take it away.
So don't take it away too soon. Can you manage to support one more bite? After a while, for me mentally, there was a kind of no. I've reached everything I can do. I'm starting to get exhausted and I'm afraid I might lose my temper. And I actually see no hope. She's not looking at her plate. She's like this.
This is where I'm play acting someone who's turned away from the table, never looking at her plate, about to spring away and run away, maybe absolutely screaming, throwing stuff around. I mean, the whole possible range of resistance where I'm thinking, right, I think I've tried everything I can now.
If she was still sitting quite compliantly, if she was sometimes looking at her food, I would think there's still some hope here.
I want to make it really clear to you, you are your child's advocate here. You really want to be as persistent and courageous as you can and make this meal work. Don't give up quickly. Your child's probably really hungry and really longing for you deep down, for you to make them eat, because they can't make themselves eat, and yet they know at some level that they need to eat, and they're so hungry and they're so weak. So you really want to do your very best. This clip now moves on to what if you really cannot do anymore. You've tried everything and you're about to go crazy and everything's going to get really very heated up for no result at all. So how do you end the meal? I suggest saying something like, okay, darling, let's call it a day. That was a good effort. You managed the chicken. And I'm very confident that we will keep making progress. Now we'll end this meal, we'll go and do something nice, you can relax, and let's think of something else. That's the opposite of going, you didn't eat the pasta. You are just destroying yourself. How do you expect me to help you when you won't help yourself? I don't see that kind of reaction as very fruitful.
So it's not a failure. Not like you, the mom, are incompetent to help me, the child.
Now, it's not impossible that at this stage, your son or daughter will say, oh, well, are you going to give me what I've not eaten at my next meal? Now, that to me is a question that is begging for a yes. It sounds to me like a hint, like, hey, give me some ammunition to eat here. If I'm going to get more later, I might as well eat now. So I might say something like, yes, well, you need the nutrition. So obviously I will have to make up for what you've not managed now. It's happened to me. My daughter managed to eat something when she knew she was going to have the same or some equivalent added to her next meals. But if your child doesn't ask, try and add the food to the next meal. You don't need to make a song and dance about it, just do it. Meanwhile, try and do something nice. I used to not know what stance to take with my daughter. Should I look really cross and judgmental because she had hardly had any lunch? Should I be grumpy all afternoon? No, it's not your child's fault. Why increase their stress? Why increase their self-judgment and their self-hate? They're more likely to trust you with the next meal if you're looking confident, competent, no blame, reduce the stress. Give them a nice time. You're competent, you're in charge. The next meal is going to work. That's the kind of stance you want to take. This kind of, I'm a trustworthy parent here. Things are going to happen one way or another. Not an easy thing to do for you, I'm sure, because what you really want to do is go and curl up and scream or cry because your child didn't eat enough. So see if you can carve yourself a bit of me time as well, so that you can boost your own well-being before the next meal. Does your child always leave a little bit on the plate? A few crumbs, a spoonful or two? Should you fight that? I mean, if apart from that, meals are working, they're getting enough calories, the amount they're leaving is symbolic more than anything. So there's the slippery slope argument. If you give an inch, will your child, or the eating disorder, take a mile? Well, is this what you're observing? If yes, then it may be time to reset things a little and take the time and the pain to insist that the plate is finished. But often our children are in a phase where they pretty much always leave the same small amount. From experience, you've discovered it's not getting worse. Some parents still really worry about that. They say, it's making the eating disorder happy. I don't want ED to get any satisfaction. I want to be stronger than the ED monster. My job is to slay the beast. Okay, if you're into metaphors, What if leaving a few crumbs is your child's way of managing the meal? What if it's an apology, an offering to the demon god of anorexia, a way of saying, look, I'm not eating it all, so please don't beat me up. This is all imagery based on the externalizing model, which I talk about in other audios. There's pros and cons to it. The thing is, it's just a metaphor. So I'll put it another way. What if leaving a few crumbs is a small, harmless gesture that helps your child manage the meal? Maybe they're thinking, I am in choice. I'm not just doing what my parents want. I have self-respect. Maybe they're soothing themselves. I'm not really a pig and I'm not binging. I am capable of leaving a little bit. Who knows? We are not in our children's heads. With time, whatever crutch your child is using to manage a meal will not be necessary. If it becomes a problem, you can address it later. For now, think of whatever is helping your child rather than focusing on winning some kind of battle against a metaphorical eating disorder demon. I want to talk about a motto that you may have heard held very strongly by some parents, which is life stops until you eat. This is something that is kind of held as a truth among many parents. It's like an obvious rule of treating your child from an eating disorder. Life stops until you eat is actually quite a confusing saying because different parents mean rather different things by it. So if someone recommends it to you, ask them exactly what worked for them. For some, it meant I took them to the emergency department. For others, it meant I took away my child's pleasures. That stopped their life until they ate. So I took away their mobile phone, for example. For others, it means, darling, you can't go to school. You haven't eaten enough. You're too weak. You need to rest. For some people, it means we do not leave the table. If it takes all night for him or her to finish the plate, then that's what we will do. Now, there's a fantastic organization of parents called Feast with a forum attached to it. It was set up initially by Laura Collins Lister-Mensch, and she wrote that it's her husband who came up with the expression, life stops until you eat. And he said, what it really means is our life stops until our daughter eats. We're not going to go off to work. We're not going to go off to our various appointments. We are really concentrating on getting our daughter to eat because it's the most important, non-negotiable thing for us. So it's really an attitude for the parent. So you see, there's a whole range to what this big saying, what it really means. Life stops until you eat means for most people really hard line. The meal will take very long if necessary. And if it doesn't work, there will be some kind of punishment. People call that consequences. Parents for whom this worked really swear by it, understandably, and they would be very distressed that I give other options as well. But I do speak to a lot of parents who said, we tried the really hardline approach, and it was a disaster, and we've been much more successful responding to our child's needs and capabilities as we went along, while obviously giving the meal our utmost priority and putting everything we could into it. For me, an approach like, can I manage one more bite? Can I bear this another 5 minutes before I say, okay, we'll call it a day, no blame. And often enough, I'm really sorry you can't go to school. Let's spend the morning doing something more restful. That's what worked for me, but you need all the options. If you look at the research that was done on family-based treatment by Locke and Lagrange, well, they don't impose a particular method. All that matters at this stage of the treatment is parents find a way, the best way that works for you to make your child eat. The details are up to you. Because there are actually so many possibilities, I created a YouTube video, which I recommend to you, which is called Stuck Not Eating. I hope you'll find your own way with confidence. When a meal is not working, it's natural for parents to look for leverage. They say, if you don't eat, I'll take away your mobile phone, for example. They tend to call that a consequence. To help you think about what might work for you and your child, let's be clear. Taking away a mobile phone is a punishment, right? The question is, does that motivate your child to eat? Many parents say that it does work, and they very much recommend it. I want to warn you that I also talk to many parents who say that they wish they'd never used punishments because it escalated the antagonism and it lost them what small level of connection that they had. It made things even harder. As you can hear, I am biased, and although I want you to have choices, I do want to make you think hard about all that can go wrong when you use punishments. Remember that when you announce a punishment or a reward, you have to carry it through. You lose the ability to make flexible decisions, to recognize something that was a good enough effort. Indeed, things can go just as wrong as you use rewards or incentives. So if you promise, eat all your meals for a week and I'll buy you a ticket to that concert, then you have to be ready to deny your child the ticket if they miss even part of one of those meals. You've now turned the reward into a punishment. Personally, I tried to have an if-then detector. As I got cross and scared, I noticed I could feel rather desperate and even vengeful. I could sense that I was about to say, if you don't eat, then you can't, blah, blah, blah. So what I tried to do is remind myself that I was my child's support person, not her adversary. And I tried to change the sentence to a positive, like, when you've eaten, then we'll be able to do blah, blah, blah. Or, as soon as you've eaten, you can go and do blah, blah, blah. Now, some things are not punishments, but are about wise, caring, protective action. Here's an example. Sweetheart, I'm so very sorry. I can't let you go to school when you've not managed your breakfast. It's not okay for your body to put in the effort without the nutrition. I'm so sorry because I know that you like going to school. It's not a punishment. Let's find something restful to do at home, and we'll do our best at snack time, okay? Parents often ask what to say about the very real threat of needing hospital admission. See what you think of this suggestion. Darling, I'm guessing this meal is very hard for you, and at the same time, I really want you to manage. That way we can keep you home, avoid hospital. You can keep the good things in your life, like enjoying the dog and the concert that we have tickets for, and your friends. Let's do our best so you don't need to go to hospital. We can do this. Have some of the omelette now. So these are some brief thoughts around the use of punishment or reward regarding a meal. There are many audios in this collection on compassionate communication, which will further help you succeed with your requests without the risks that come with using punishments. Sometimes we think we have to wait for our child to be in a good mood or in an okay mood before we can even attempt a meal. I want to give you a little anecdote to show at one extreme how our children can be supported to eat even when they're incredibly upset. My daughter was once incredibly upset, and for good reason, in hospital. And she was curled up in a ball, howling in her hospital bedroom. And we were on the other side trying to soothe her and make things better. And she was still highly distressed. And a nurse came to us and she said, "Could you please leave now because it's lunchtime. We're going to get her to the table." And I thought, that's ridiculous. There's no way she can eat when she's in this state. And when we phoned later, we discovered that she had. She'd come to the table sobbing and she'd eaten. Now there's other factors at play. She was in hospital. Nurses have different tools from what parents have. Also, sometimes a change of horses helps. The nurse had come in fresh, whereas we as parents had been dealing with the situation for quite a long time. So all kinds of factors, but the lesson I got from it was, my gosh, with the right support, my daughter can eat even when she is very, very upset. So the message for all of us, I think, is be persistent, be brave. Don't assume that your child cannot eat, and don't wait for the perfect moment to call them to the table. A few words on getting your child to the table when even that seems impossible. You might gesture, so your body language guides your child. I wouldn't get physical. You can be a bit of a broken record with kindness and keep persisting. Here are examples of what you could say with longish pauses in between. Please come to the table. On you come, darling, it's lunchtime. Lunch is ready. Come on, we're here to help you. Come and sit down. We'll help you. Come and eat, and we'll start a game. We're going to play some cards. Come and sit down. You look like you're freaking out. I'm so sorry. We'll talk about some fun things, or how about you choose a good movie? We can eat on the sofa, whatever makes it easy for you. Let's get going. As soon as we're done with lunch, we can go and visit the neighbors' puppies. If you're still getting nowhere, you could maybe say something like, okay, I'm going to give you 10 minutes so you can muster up your courage. And in 10 minutes, I'll come. You'll come and sit, and we'll have a fine lunch. It will be absolutely fine. I know it will be okay. I'm suggesting this because sometimes our children can soothe themselves better alone than with us. And of course, if your child won't come to the table, you can always bring the food to them. If things are this difficult, what really matters is that they're eating. It doesn't matter where they eat. As long as they're not eating alone and you can see that they're managing the food, then that's fine. It's a difficult time for everybody, and for you as a parent, you might be getting discouraged. Eventually, it will become routine. Your child will come to the table.